Oh, recording in progress, my favorite thing to hear. So I am, as usual, very excited, but also it's Cherri Prince from Seed Strategy, and we love Cherri. So she's going to do a session. You're hired. Understanding jobs theory for more successful innovation. And I will tell you, since I'm running her PowerPoint, I've seen her PowerPoint, and I've already taken a screenshot and sent it to people in my MBA program. I'm like, have you checked this out? This is interesting. So that's how we're rolling. But very excited to have Cherri with us because, as most of you know, she is awesome. And we are going to have a fantastic session.
Thank you, Beth.
I don't know what happened to my previous screen, so.
Well, you know what, before you turn it back on, I have a question for everybody. We can go without the screen, and that'll buy you some time too.
Perfect.
Okay. Hey, welcome everybody. Thank you for that introduction. Great to see old friends and new friends on Virtual CPSI. I am Cherri Prince, and I am the head of growth and strategy at Seed Strategy. And it has been 31 years. June 11th would have been my career anniversary of being in the business of advertising, marketing, insights, and innovation. So it's a career that I've loved and enjoyed, and discovered CPSI because of that career, met my husband, and now have 2 teenagers because of it. So thank you. That's it. Thank you. And thank you, Beth. But with that, I'm gonna, before she puts the screens back up, I kind of just want to get a check on where everybody's at in their understanding of jobs theory. So if everybody could take a minute, turn your cameras off. Everybody turn them off, turn them off. There'll be 3 questions to turn it back on. So everybody turn your camera off. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now turn your camera back on. If you'd say, I'm familiar with jobs theory, I use it quite a bit. So I'll know who my experts are in the crowd. I'll look to you. We'll all learn together. Okay, great. Looking around, second screen. Okay, perfect. Okay, great. Okay, everybody turn your cameras off. So turn your camera back on if you'd say, I'm vaguely familiar and I'm here to learn more. And these are my curious learners. Hello, Mary Ellen Vixta. Good to see you. Definitely. Judith, hi. Great. And Liz, great. Okay, now one more time, everybody turn your camera off. Okay. And now you're going to turn your camera back on if you are really not sure what this is at all. But like how I decide most CPSI sessions, it was a cool title, you're game for anything, and your knowledge base is pretty low. So you're my curious, trusting souls there. All right, good to see. Ray, thank you. You had to be here. You're the wing. But I like that you fall in that trusting souls. Okay, glad to have you all here. Beth, if you wouldn't mind putting that screen back up, the opening one. Because I just want to, in case you walked in after it was gone, to make sure that you have a chance to check out the while we were waiting homework. But even now, I'm going to get us going. But if you didn't have a chance, still, because we're going to pull this out later, with whatever you think this means. So again, we had a lot of people that were either vaguely or don't know much about what the idea of like hiring something is in jobs theory, but on a piece of paper, diverge if you haven't had a chance, 1 or 2 things, up to 10 if you had a chance, a long list of all the reasons you say you hired CPSI in terms of an investment of your time and treasure to come to virtual CPSI. So many of you had a chance to do that. So I'm going to move on. If you didn't, go ahead and write some down, and you can keep writing while I'm giving you a little bit on the next slide, what we're going to cover in the next 90 minutes. So we're going to do 3 things. What is jobs theory? So a real foundational understanding of what it is and why we like it, why I like it, why my colleagues at Seed like it, why a lot of our clients like it, and it sounds like why Beth Slazak likes it. Now she shared it with her MBA students. So we'll do the foundational understanding. Then it wouldn't be CPSI if we didn't apply it, right? So we're going to practice, we're going to play with it, we're going to do a couple breakout rooms. And then again, in the spirit of it wouldn't be SIPSy, is if the final thing we're going to do is it wouldn't be SIPSy if we made a connection to this theory to our whole selves, not just our job self, but our whole self. And we will end with that little bonus content there on what it means for you personally and how you can apply it every day. So if that sounds good, and in the virtual world, I'm going to take that some thumbs up. Sounds good. Yep. Okay, great. We can move on to the next slide and our first topic. Okay, so what is it? And my experts can jump in here as well. But if you want to go to the next slide, Beth. So jobs theory emerged about a little more than 20 years ago in a course taught by Clayton Christensen, a genius in the business world and a professor at Harvard Business School. Sadly, the world lost Clayton Christensen in early 2020. But he's written several best-selling books. The first one was The Innovator's Dilemma. And the theory of jobs to be done was originally developed as a complement to kind of his base theory, which is around disruptive innovation, which is largely about disruptive innovation is largely about when an innovation disrupts a market or category so much, it completely changes the dynamics of them or obliterates them. Going way, way back to what the Ford's low-priced automobiles did to the horse and carriage, completely changed it. But then other disruptions could be like, of course, like Uber or Southwest Airlines. But jobs theory was a little bit of just kind of a side part of that. But it was so intuitive and so interesting, and that's what we're going to delve more in today, that it almost in a way, in our minds, kind of became the more interesting part than just disruptive innovation, which is really about how startups in particular can disrupt categories, which is also an interesting thing. So read the books if you want to hear more about that. But today's about jobs theory. And what it does is you may experience, and what we've experienced as we think about all the data, the consumer data that we have now, is it often is causal. It's data that says things like 68% of consumers prefer version A to version B, or on Amazon, you see it every day, or on Netflix, many people that bought this book bought this one. And that's corollary, it correlates, but it's not causal. It doesn't really explain what's causing the behavior. So we think that that's the opportunity with jobs theory, and again, we'll explain it, that it's more about what are the circumstances and the struggles and the jobs people are hiring products and services to do, and that it will make you a more effective innovator. And another word for it we like is outcome-based innovation. So with that, if you want to move to the next slide. So continuing on with jobs theory, when we think of our lives, there's lots of jobs to be done. Some are little ones. And I was thinking of one kind of from my personal life, and maybe this isn't such a little one. Maybe you all can decide. Last week, aging. Can we talk about aging? Last week, I literally woke up with eye wrinkles and puffiness under my eyes. And you think it'd be slow, but it felt like it was just, where did this come from? So I had never been in the market for eye wrinkle cream, but all of a sudden I needed to hire that product and I needed that job to be done. So I went to CVS and I looked at the shelf, and immediately other women must have this issue because there was many eye defense puffiness products. So that was a job that I didn't have before that I needed. They can happen suddenly. Sometimes jobs that you need to hire products for can be completely unpredictable. And you can think of, we could spend 20 minutes just talking and thinking about all the various products and services we hired because of the pandemic that just 2 years ago you would have said you never would have been in the market for disposable masks or disinfecting wipes, or et cetera, et cetera. And some things happen, some jobs happen more regularly, like if you have kids, like trying to limit their screen time. But jobs theory focuses on outcomes. Remember, I think I said in the write-up, Theodore Levitt, another famous kind of Harvard Business Review guy, said people don't want 1/4 inch drills. They want 1/4 inch holes. They want the outcome. So we're buying it for the outcome. And that's, again, back to outcome-based innovation. So let's dig a little bit further in. I want to give you an example of, on the next slide, jobs theory 20 years ago in my career, and I think I referenced this in the write-up, that I wish I had known about jobs theory at the time, but I didn't. I want to tell you a quick story about teens and Raisin Bran. So you got to time travel, go back to the 90s. Why do you think teenagers hired Raisin Bran in the 1990s? And a lot of them were $30-40 million worth of revenue of teens hiring Raisin Bran in the 1990s. Again, you're still learning, but any guesses on why they were hiring Raisin Bran? Again, shout out or put it in the chat. Maybe Beth, you could help me with the things to get in chat. Okay, I pulled it up. Okay, and feel free to shout out California raisins, what they could get their parents to buy. Oh yeah, the days of prizes in the box. Digestive health, raisins are covered in sugar. Nice, Fern. Okay, all good. Sliming. Okay. Healthy cereals. Okay, gotcha. Great. Okay, this was a little bit of a no idea. Yuck. Okay, I feel the same about Raisin Bran. This was a little bit of a trick question, because as we did our research and tried to understand this, we discovered they were not hiring Raisin Bran at all. In fact, the most common reason, and I did a lot of this research, one-on-one interviews with teenagers, the most common reason was that it was in their house because it was just there. It was the default. It was better than nothing. I was hungry. And I was, this was one of my first management jobs about 25 years ago. And I remember a teenager looking at me as I pondered, why? What does Raisin Bran make possible for you? Give me some feelings, some ideas. And she looked at me and said, it's just Raisin Bran. So my point is, they were not hiring. They were not the hiring manager. Some of you did say this in the chat. It was the moms that were hiring it for, as feeling that, that it would be something that she would feel good about, her whole family eating, because it's of course bran. But the teens' job, they were telling us, some of you said this in the chat, it's too soggy. And the only sweet part is the Raisin Bran, is the raisins. So when we really, again, if you think about jobs theory now, if you really wanted to understand what are the jobs teens at the time or even now need, why would they hire a breakfast cereal is fuel, morning fuel. And for them, they like it really sweet. They like it crunchy. Some of you said soggy. So eventually we innovated a product that teenagers hired in droves. It was one of the most successful new product innovations of the past 20 years for Kellogg's, which is a product called Raisin Bran Crunch. So I share this story briefly to say, and Raisin Bran Crunch, by the way, mom, even though it has 20 grams of sugar, mom still hires it because it's still bran, so she feels good. And teenagers are hiring it because it's sweet and crunchy. So you got to know who your hiring manager is. But again, consumption data can be deceiving. Consumption data can make you think they're hiring it, and it gave us no idea of their motivation. So you got to dig deeper. So one last thing, and then we're going to play with it, because that's the way we learn, right? Is actually playing with the theory. Is on the next slide, Beth. All in all, you're going to play with it and see a template to play with as well to get it out of the theory. Is what we like most about it is it aligns with a very human-centered approach to innovation. We're going to see in a minute, we're going to layer in circumstance and how that can really add power to the idea of jobs. Two, it opens your mind to a broad array of possibilities and competitors when you think about it as jobs. Sometimes some people ask, can you hire something you don't pay for? And many times there's things that you hire that you don't pay for, but maybe it's not a great solution. So as an innovator, you may be able to create something of value people would pay for that they're currently not paying for, like sleep, let's say, or trying to get to sleep themselves. Third, it focuses innovations on human needs versus the products. And then finally, it's just intuitive, and you'll see about hiring and firing, and it's just an easy framework to understand. And then lastly, on the next slide, sometimes definitions, I know I've learned in my years at Seed, we love a good, like what it is, what it isn't to help deepen the definition of something. So what it is a job that consumers, people would hire. like helps me to get something done, satisfy my appetite, refreshes me, feeds my kids, helps me celebrate. It is not a feature, attention, a demographic. It's not a need, like I get hungry or, you know, I forget. It's an outcome. And the one last layer before we play on the next slide. And I have a couple of SEED colleagues. I think one, Corey Beilstein. Would you let me know that you're here? I can't look. Corey, you there? And Aaron King?
I'm here. Hello.
Okay.
Hello.
Maybe.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. You guys, they're also jobs theory experts. So if you guys could keep, when things come up in the chat, maybe keep an eye on that. That'd be great. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. But not all jobs are functional. So they're made up of a couple of dimensions: functional, emotional, and social. So functional is probably what we think of first, just what it does. It satisfies my, you know, refreshes me. It satisfies me. What a functional job is, just what it does. A little bit more practical, a little bit more objective. But there's other dimensions, the emotional and social dimensions of jobs, that are a little bit more subjective. Emotional is how you want to feel. So why you hire a product. You might hire secret. I think I mentioned the write-up about a woman is more than an armpit was a presentation I wrote, and it had some connections to jobs theory. But secret antiperspirant, a job you'd hire an antiperspirant for would be wetness protection. An emotional job you'd hire it for would be confidence. You know, confidence, I'm not going to pit out. Confidence, I'm not going to look stressed. Or actually, I'm blurring into the social a bit. You're hiring secret because I want to hire it because I want to appear in control and confident. When you pit out or have sweat, women will tell us that. I'm talking just like real people do. You don't appear that way. And that's what the social dimension is. And I was thinking last night, I was thinking about this, you know, jobs theory has been around about 20 years, but now with social media, the social dimension cannot be underestimated given we're such a social sharing culture. I want everybody to take a look back at if you had a chance to make a list of all the reasons you hired CPSI in the beginning. And if you didn't, if you could write a list, are all the reasons that you hired CPSI. And if you didn't write a list, start writing some reasons why you hired CPSI. And if you did, I want you to put an F by the reasons that are functional, that you perceive as functional reasons, functional jobs. I want you to put an E by anything you wrote that you think are more emotional jobs. And then an S by any reasons that you think are social jobs, meaning how you're being perceived by others. I want to give everybody a minute to do that, either to create your list of a divergent list of all the reasons you hired CPSI, and then put an F, E, and S by the different reasons. We'll have a little chitter chat about it in just a minute. Ooh, Laura had an aha. Maybe they weren't actually jobs, so now maybe rewrite them. Okay, got about 30 seconds left, but I think I'm going to take this time to say you've got 30 seconds left for anybody finishing their list or putting the E, S, and F, E, and S by them. And I'm going to set a timer so we're moved along, but I'm going to set a 4-minute timer for both chat and shout outs. Shout outs are totally fine too. For what are some of, I'd love to hear, and I imagine Miss Beth Miller may love to hear, what are some of, and Beth Slazak, the Beths. What are some of the functional, emotional, or social jobs that you came up with for why you hired CPSI? And there's, at this point, we're going to deepen understanding. Don't worry if you're like, I'm not sure if this is one or not. Just let's get the conversation going. And some may be in the chat. Okay. Who wants to actually shout one out? Okay. Professional, new ideas, feel inspired.
Always learn something new after over 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You get that question? Go ahead, Liz.
Always get wonderful nuggets from the sessions about how to think and work.
Right. New nuggets, I think it worked.
Entertainment value.
You come to be entertained. That's a kind of borderlines functional and emotional of that, huh?
Well, yeah, it was actually emotional and social also, because like, you know, so that's my question is, can you have one that actually falls into multiple categories?
Yeah, I think so. I'd love to, Erin King, are you still on the call? I'd love your perspective on that.
Hi. Yes, I am. Yeah, I think we see that, and sometimes we see some of them are like sub reasons under a larger functional, emotional, or social tension. So there might be variations to one greater theme. But I think as we think, your example, I think I would, if I had to place it, I'd probably place it in between functional and emotional. I think social, we often think of how you want to be perceived by others versus like the socialization aspect of actually socializing with others, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you, Erin. Okay, sharing, there's a connection with others, or with your son. Okay. Increase effectiveness in consulting. Okay. Reignite my passions. That's firmly in the emotional camp. Okay.
Meet interesting people.
Mm-hmm. Great.
There's a good one, bragging rights. That's a nice one from Laura.
Bragging rights. Okay. So yeah, definitely. So you want to be perceived as in the know. Maybe you're on the leading edge of knowing things about all kinds of topics, but particularly creativity. That's definitely falls right in the social. Good there. Good, Laura. And thank you, Corey. Awesome. Okay. Well, we are going to move on so that we can play in the breakout, but hopefully this is, beginning to make a little bit more sense, but we're going to deepen our understanding with, well, actually we're going to practice one more time with your perception of functional, social, and emotional. Again, Laura, let's leave this slide up here. I'm going to close my chat. So before you go into the breakout, remember those distinctions. So once you got to play with it a little bit, Erin shared a perspective on the social. Social is largely why they're hiring a product as it relates to affirming, validating, or changing how they're perceived by others. So that's the social side. Emotional is our jobs about how that product or service will make you feel. And technical and functional ones are kind of just think about what does it actually kind of do for me, what it technically kind of objectively solves, what it does for me, and like a refresh in the case of beverage, or gosh, what would be a good functional one for CPSI? There's so many emotional reasons. I guess just skills. I mean, even kind of Mary Ellen and Liz, your idea of you added a level of differentiation, which was skills, despite that common, a lot of us longtime CPSI people get, why do you go every year? Haven't you learned it yet? You continue to build new skills, would be a good functional one.
Cherri. Cherri?
Yeah, hi, Harry.
Hey, this is Harry. Question. It seems to me that in the case of CPSI, functional and social are sort of more pragmatic. Emotional is the result of those. Like for instance, I think it's fun and I feel good to be at CPSI, but I go there to learn and also to create more of a network of people, which is social. So I'm wondering, which one do you put more on the top, the functional, social, or the emotional?
Yeah, well, that's a little bit what Erin said. The distinction with social, emotional would be you come to CPSI for connection. Feeling of connection. So it's less about kind of the literal definition of social, like to connect. Social would be the social dimension of how others perceive you. So why are you hiring CPSI for how it affects how others perceive you? The idea of you come to CPSI for connection with others would be an emotional benefit, of feeling connected, feeling like part of a bigger community.
Okay.
If that helps. And let me show you that we're building up to a complete job statement that's going to layer in circumstances. So hopefully it'll start to kind of like see how all the pieces and parts fit together. Because you might be going there, Harry, which I would be too. Like, okay, how do all these fit together? If you're going to go to the next slide, we're going to work in a breakout of 4 or 5 people, and you're going to be with the same people twice. So you're going to do one exercise together, and then you're going to go deeper with a kind of full job statement with all the context together. And I will, yeah, I see some people taking, are you going to put that in the chat? Oh, nice. Okay, great. Okay, so we are going to imagine that we have been hired by an orange juice company. And the company would like to develop more products for active adults in their 60s or 70s. So in your breakout group, you could just do, maybe someone could be your scribe, and you could do F for functional, E for emotional, S for social. What are diverge, a long list of jobs that are functional, what it actually just does for you, emotional, how it makes you feel, and social, what are jobs that you might hire orange juice for as it relates to how people would perceive you. If you are in your 60s and 70s, then use a muse, we call in an insights presentation, the mirror, which means look to yourself. You are in your 60s and 70s, you probably are an active adult, and look within of why you would hire orange juice, functionally, socially, emotionally. If you're not in your 60s and 70s, use another muse in another presentation we call the method actor, and conjure up someone that that's an active adult in their 60s and 70s, and empathize with them about what functional, social, or emotional jobs they may use as you think about hiring orange juice. So that's all you need to do. And it's, again, we're going to layer in the next breakout into a complete job statement. So let's practice just trying on what some functional, emotional, and social jobs would be for, we're being hired by an orange juice company. Let me consult with Erin. Could we broaden it to, they probably orange juice competes with, given us, beverages in total, that you wouldn't have to just think about jobs for hiring orange juice.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So it may be on the broader beverage space, functional, emotional, and social. Okay, with that, Beth, you're gonna go. Okay, she's gonna put you to breakout. Okay, great. Okay, so we are in a minute. We're going to get back and do the part 2 in just a minute. But first, I want to hear some shout out and in the chat. I'll type the word functional here. What were some of the functional jobs you came up with?
Refreshment.
Refreshment. Okay. What else? Great.
Vitamins and minerals that are in orange juice.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. My adult children think I'm healthy.
Okay. Okay. Now, you think that's a functional job or a social job?
It's a social job.
Social job. Okay.
That was
okay.
my favorite. Sorry, did you only ask for functional?
Yeah, but that's okay.
Oh, I apologize. How about source of energy for functional?
Perfect. Okay, great. That was an excellent social one. Source of energy. Okay. Any other functional?
Health benefits.
Health benefits. Okay. Right. Yeah. Like immunity, big right now, specifically on that. That would be a good example, just real quick on whoever said health benefits. Erin referenced macro jobs. So in a minute, we'll talk about like diverging and converging. Sometimes there's macro jobs, and then there's some jobs underneath it, immunity, blah blah blah. Other things that might be a job. So what about now? I'm going to type in the emotional jobs. What were some emotional jobs you came up with?
And Cherri, I want to jump in on the immune system discussion. We actually split that between functional and emotional because during the pandemic, guarding your immune system became also an emotional thought process. So we kind of split immune between functional and emotional.
Boy, excellent point. So you could have said, how did in the pandemic, how did guarding your immunity, maybe before it was kind of all function, but it turned into control, defense, feeling like I'm on top of this, or great distinction. Okay, other emotional jobs. Okay, we got
Memories of mom squeezing orange juice for you every morning.
Okay, conjuring up memories. That's an interesting one. Great.
Pride and self-care, taking care of yourself.
Okay, nice. Yep.
What do you
Yeah.
think? Someone in our group said reliable, like it's always easy to find and convenient to find. Is that a function of the orange juice, or is that more like the store? And
Well, I might say on that one, how does it make you feel when something's reliable? That feels a little bit more functional, like you can always rely on it, at least the way I've described it. I don't know who
There's
said.
a comfort in the routine aspect of it.
Ah, okay.
Or it could make you feel relaxed that you never have to worry about whether.
Consistency, right? Okay, great. Security, great. Okay, now let's do a couple social. So we got an excellent one about the pride in, what was the perception about your kids?
yeah, showing your kids you're healthy.
Yeah, I know. Right. Do and not just say, but do. What are social jobs?
We said status if you brought it from your Florida winter home.
Ooh, yes, right. You have to talk like Thurston Howell and say, I bought it from my winter home. Yeah. Yes, Lovey squoze it for me. Okay, I don't know where that came from. Okay, move on to other social jobs.
It was a pretty impressive impersonation.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Good.
I watched a lot of syndicated TV as a child in the afternoon. So. Other social jobs.
Our group added, adding alcohol so that you are perceived as, in some way, either fun or partying or whatever.
Fairly prevalent theme.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And bring the
On my
family
mind.
together for breakfast to start the day is a social function.
What was that, Corey?
Bring the family together for breakfast to start the day as a social job.
Now, how do you think that would make, if you're a parent and you hired it for that reason, what do you think it's making others in your family perceive you as?
Would that be more like my family thinks I'm a good mom because I smoke orange juice? Is that the subject? Is that?
Yeah. Great. Okay.
I'm using all the colors in the crayon box when I eat and drink. So, that's one of the things that they say to do.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Well, and then, yeah.
Cherri, our group was saying too, if it's organic, kind of like the Thurston Howell analogy is like, oh, I'm responsible. I'm doing things that are organic and good for the environment while I feed my family, not just, a mix like Tang used to be or Kool-Aid or something like that.
Right. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. There's a whole lot that goes in with those premium, kind of the better for you category, organic being one, right? Yeah. In terms of social and how you're perceived. That's awesome. Okay, we're going to come back to orange juice in a minute. We're going to, on the next slide, we're going to deepen it a little bit more to how do we construct a entire job statement. Okay, so if you want to go on to the next one. Oops, let's see. One more. It's kind of dramatic how it slides up like that. Okay, so now we're going to create, and there's going to be a template that I'll share how you can get it in the chat in a second for your next breakout room. So you have all the templates there with you. Is a complete job statement. In the middle, you see there is what you guys worked on, kind of the middle, the jobs, the functional, emotional, and social. But when you layer in, here's where it gets really interesting, is when you layer in the circumstance to the left, the context or the situation, like the who and the where and the when, you guys already started doing that. You can imagine that could change things very differently of why you'd hire a product depending on the context, depending on the circumstance. And then on the right-hand side, you change the circumstance, that might change the job, and it could actually change then the struggle. And the struggle is what is the birthplace for innovation, right? Is what is the job that's not being completed in an efficient way, or it's being done in a time-consuming way or inefficient way. That's where innovation can solve for it. So let's look on the next slide, that template of the complete job statement. So and invite you, and you'll have this both in a handout afterwards as well as before you go to the next breakout room. I'm going to put that back in. Hang on, I'll put it back in the chat just so I don't forget again. Okay. So While, and just in case it takes a second, while I'm talking, if anybody wants to just click on that link, it has the link to this template. And if one of your team members has it, you could even share, you can get real fancy and share your screen and like type stuff in a minute. But let me go back to what I'm asking you to do first. I got excited about what all you could do in your breakouts. So let's look at this template, and it's got, in a function, in a context, what the tension is, and then how we've kind of combined emotional and social in this template for now. But remember, they are two different things. Let's look at an example on slide 15. The next slide. Okay. So this is the functional job when trying to make precise wood cuts, and the context is at a construction site. You might struggle with finding a level surface to work, and what you want to feel and be perceived as feeling like in control and perceived as a master craftsman. So that's clearly a social job versus an emotional one. Now, it gets interesting when you play with the context. So this was a client of ours. This wasn't the client, but let's just say this is Makita, which is makes construction tools, but they also make tools for do-it-yourselfers. So say we change the context. So when trying to make precise cuts in my garage at home, this would change the struggle. I struggle to find an affordable option that's for DIYers versus professional construction crews. And is the social resolution of that job might be because I want to be perceived as the savvy neighbor that has all the right tools. Now, it doesn't matter that that example is, but I wanted you to see before you go out in the breakouts, one, what the complete template looks like, and how this could have been the same person, the same male or female that works in construction, but also does it at home. When you change the context, it changed how you might innovate because the struggle and the tension was very different. That kind of led to that. So if you go to the next slide, we're gonna go back to the orange juice company, and we're gonna practice putting together a full job statement. So some of you either screen grabbed, or I think somebody, Beth screen grabbed just the template, right, Beth? That was the template you screenshot?
Yes.
So two choices, either just pick up before you go in your breakout on the chat, the screenshot of the template, or you can get the actual PowerPoint to it in that link, but do that before you go to your breakout. So maybe give everybody just a second to do that, Beth. And then she's going to send you back with the same people you worked with before. So you got a little team going, you got a little momentum going from your jobs before. And I would suggest in the time that you have, which is going to be about 7 minutes, that you first just get one job statement done. So you can just say, I've ticked the box on having done it. It makes logical sense. And then I would ask you to play around with the circumstance. So you may have started with a breakfast circumstance, change it to another one so that you can kind of see how it might have a cascading effect on all the other pieces. Okay. So with that, yeah, I'd imagine the AM context for orange juice is very different than the happy hour context. Okay, so Beth is sending everybody off. Ooh, welcome back. All right. Shell. Nice. Okay, well, I know I'm calling on first. I know that always feels abrupt. So know that you're not alone. That's so true. But I'd love to hear a couple of job statements. Shell has already said they had 3, and you can, just share what, the flow and what your ahas were. We'll do this for a couple minutes just to kind of deepen our understanding and learn from each other. So Shell, would you like to go first?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we did a rush one at the very end. We stayed on to be healthy. In the situation of COVID safety was a situation that we changed to. People struggled to find homeopathic remedies that you could easily get at a store that weren't flying off the shelf, and because we wanted to feel or be perceived as alive, but no, so that we could be in each other's bubbles, so that we could not be susceptible. So that was actually our last one that we were changed the situation for.
And you seem kind of excited about that, which is a lesson in creativity all the time about you got to power through to the last one.
Because we did it at the 30-second notice.
Yes, yeah, right. Little pressure builds a diamond. Nice. Thank you, Shell. Anybody else wants to share theirs of, did you take a left turn, an unexpected last minute like Shell's team, or not, or just want to share and have an aha?
We were, go ahead.
Cage match, Corey, Jem, who's going to win?
Go ahead, Corey.
All right, cool. All right. My team was all about celebration, and this was either the matriarch or the patriarch getting the whole family together because everyone's coming out this summer and fully vaccinated and ready to go. So we were trying to provide whole family refreshments, something everybody could drink to celebrate. And this was all about inclusivity. So whether you're a kid or an adult, you're drinking orange juice plain, or you're going to add some alcohol to it, this is the person that's hiring orange juice in order to feel like a good host or hostess, and that everybody enjoyed themselves and they were able to provide something for everyone.
Did you have attention?
Corey? Oh yeah. Well, finding something that everybody at the party was going to enjoy.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you. Jem, you're ready.
So yeah, we were working with the idea of using orange juice as a marinade, which was kind of one of our more unique ideas from the earlier one. So kind of the context was, you're trying to prepare food for grilling or for cooking. You want something that everybody's going to like. So we thought about a few different tensions, but I guess to follow this thread, the tension is you want to make sure that you're using ingredients that probably everybody will like. So, maybe vinegar is too pungent or too strong, but you want something with that acid. So maybe orange juice is something that kind of will appeal to everybody. And so hopefully the social outcome is you're seen as a good host or you're seen as a good cook.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I thought of the kind of ubiquity of and benefits of that, of the kind of all appeal. You both had that in different contexts. Yeah, good playing with the context. All right, Deborah, we'll do one more. Deborah, would you like to share? You wrote it in the chat, or would anyone else like to live share? Love the energy of a live share, if you don't mind.
Sure. We were just talking about in the morning, trying to get head out the door and have a healthy breakfast with the family and make sure that everybody actually drinks the juice, not just drink it at all, but drink all of it, because I can imagine that would be a thing, because we want to be perceived as parents who ensure our family is strong and healthy.
Okay. So could be, you keep diving into that, struggles around like the size of what you're giving, if there's a single serve, or, how you might, there's been in the juice, there's so much innovation in juice right now, the shots and things that, that makes it a little bit more about kind of just getting it out quickly. So yeah, you could see lots of different ways this could inspire innovation. Yep. Okay, great. And we have a few, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we had at the last minute also a function of satisfying the sweet tooth without sugar. Maybe a circumstance having something after a meal that's kind of like a dessert drink. But how do we avoid typical non-sugar sweeteners and wanting to be perceived as being able to do something satisfying without harming ourselves?
Yeah, no, that's great, Liz. You could see how the struggle with sweet is a real struggle. We work with a low sugar chocolate company that's got an amazing product because of it absolutely hit and it's true of orange juice and some of its declines right now, of struggling for wanting that something sweet and, without the sugar, and what else could be, satisfy that equally with not giving up any of the taste and enjoyment of it. So awesome. Okay, terrific. Okay, guys, we're going to move to our next section about really how you apply this to innovation. It's been a whirlwind tour. If you want to keep going past that one. we're just going to hold on this one for a second, Beth. And this is really now the moving into how do you apply it to inform innovation. We'll just share our experience with it in terms of some of the idea of, like, you see all the jobs, like lots of divergence. So again, in a 90-minute session, we're doing things here really quickly, but we're going to step through and give you some specific tools to use in the inspiration and identification of jobs, which will give you a lot of them. And then some ideas and ways I'm doing the converge here. I never do it right. Filter and narrow, some filtering tools and ideas, which can include research as well as some other things that you can do without doing research. And then lastly, how do you translate that into innovation platforms, like some springboards for innovation? So with that, you want to go to the next slide, Beth. This will really show the 3 chapters of this story now. If you want to go to the next one. The identify. So this is all about just, again, sharing in our experience, lots of ways of identifying these jobs that you can then apply. And at the end of our session, we will put a handout, which will have most of the slides that were shared today. There's a few I needed to pull, but most of the slides will be in there. So if you are worried about taking notes, we'll put that as a link to the PDF in the chat in a minute. So if you want to go to the next one. So first we're going to talk about different ways of inspiring identifying jobs. So before we identify, much like in the spirit of CPS, after you've kind of defined, wouldn't it be great if, a big dream, you need to do your discovery, your fact finding. So we find that in the work that we do with clients, which is either working B2B or consumer, business to consumer, a wealth of information can be found in existing or previous or new primary qualitative research designed specifically at helping unearth, what are people attempting? What are their outcomes? Why are they doing it? And we love this question, Corey, jump in with, what does that make possible for you? So when you may not ask consumers, we don't often directly say, why do you hire and fire? But we will, use questions like, what does it make possible? And again, knowing the filter, we're wanting to get functional and emotional and social things out there. So qualitative research is a great source for discovery. Existing data insight. So all that corollary stuff we talked about is absolutely very valuable. All the, yes, corollary data can be very powerful for what are the behaviors out there. And you can, for all of these, you have to make some leaps, some mental leaps to what the hypothetical functional emotional jobs could be. And then lastly, secondary research, of course, and also social. We have a data journalist that we do a lot of social listening and pulling secondary sources, and also Google search trends. Boy, we've seen some interesting things at different times in the pandemic about searches for weight loss and how it went out the window at the beginning of the pandemic. As you know, we were all eating our Oreo cookies and said to hell with it. And then by May, search trends for weight loss were as high as they are ever in January, because we were like, okay, I guess we need to get back on track. So anyway, secondary research and Google search trends you can all do yourself, is a great source. So that's for laying the foundation. But on the next slide, want to share with that in hand, with that insight in hand, I'm going to share 3 tools that we'll often use in a brainstorm or workshop. The first one on the next slide, Beth, is rapid fire job brainstorm. So there's lots of ways you can do this. Here's 2 different activities we love to use. And for this one, I'm going to ground everybody in kind of an actual example of, let's say we were hired by a snacking company. And activity 1 is what we call occasion category mashup. And what we would do is we would diverge and put on either physical or digital cards, depending on if we're doing this on Zoom, of all the different occasions of snacking. There's AM snacking, there's late night snacking, there's afternoon hunger snacking. So all the different kind of occasions, contexts, circumstances. And then there's many, many different categories of snacking. There's nuts and there's cereal and there's granola bars and there's popsicle, all kinds of categories. So the smash up is pick 2 cards from each deck and just, this is like forced connections, right? In the good CPS, toolbox of greatest hit. So if you put together AM snacking and nuts, what jobs can we brainstorm from that mashup? So it might get us to, any guesses? What would AM snacking and nuts, not guesses, just what are some theories that what does that inspire?
Peanut
Morning
butter.
protein, filling up.
On the go.
On the go. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yep. So a very good functional job. Okay. So that's how that might go. You could put together late night snacking and Cheez-Its, a favorite of Corey Beilstein. What did that inspire? So again, this is a forced connection of random things that just to get your team and your mind thinking of different jobs in the functional, emotional, and social space.
Drunk eating.
Drunk eating. Yes, exactly. Right. Yeah. Inhibitions are down. It's like drunk dialing. I mean, there's a lot of jobs that can come from that. Absolutely. So this is a very divergent activity. Again, no judgment in using our good divergent rules. Activity 2 that we use a lot is a day in the life. So this may have circumstance cards of a day in the life of a couple of different folks that we know may be important audiences to us, and that you may go through, a day in the life, again, thinking of ultimately we're hired by our snacking company, let's say, as a team. You might go through a day in the life of waking up, showering, commuting, sitting at the desk, in a large meeting, getting hungry. All of those different activities could then generate different jobs in the day, using the day in the life. So that's one example of how you can generate diverge jobs to kind of push yourself out of your head. Next one on the next slide is just a real simple job brain dump. So this is, again, you'd use Stormboard or Mural until we're back together and I've missed those awesome Post-it notes. And this is just where you put functional, emotional, and social, and just have a dump of, diverge and stick them up Post-it notes of all the different ones that you can think of for a particular realm. The next one is, what I like about this one is identifying untapped jobs. And this is where really from an innovation standpoint, white space opportunity could exist. So, good innovations, I mentioned about, solving problems that either had inadequate or non-existent solutions. One of the questions we ask is, where do you see that second bullet point? Where do you see non-consumption, not hiring a product? And Corey and I had a chance to do some work with Netflix and had a lot of, this was probably 5 years ago. And Reed Hastings, the CEO and founder, kind of famously said that he felt that their number one competitor is sleep, that no one was hiring streaming services between midnight and 6 a.m. So having that in mind, that if sleep was how they defined their competition, that they created all kinds of innovations to keep you engaged to the next episode, binge worthy, recommend movies of similar shows, and how he thought about that there was non-consumption. Why not be entertained all the time? Maybe that was his map of the world. Another good question you could say is, as you're thinking about, again, you may be thinking about snacking, you may be thinking about CPSI and getting people to come to CPSI. What are hacks people do to get around or workarounds for things that haven't been invented yet? That leads to great conversations. You can all just go around the room and talk about your various hacks that you have, or that you've read about, or that you can have as a homework assignment before coming to a workshop. Look at social media or Google different hacks on getting XYZ done and see that could inspire new ways of thinking about jobs that maybe aren't being fulfilled yet. And then what are tasks that people tend to avoid? Negative jobs. This could be a source for innovation for jobs that people just don't want to do, like taking out the trash or putting the toilet lid down. Kohler has an innovation for that because they found there was a job to be done that no one was doing, or at least males were not doing all the time. And they have invented that. I saw it at the Consumer Electronics Show last year. So these are all ways you can identify jobs. And one more, and then we'll move to the next one, is on the next slide, Beth. Another way for identifying jobs is personas. We love personas. We love the idea, as you see on the left there, of empathy building activities. Persona is one example. There's many ways you can step inside the shoes and into the lives of your, the people that matter most to your potential business or innovation. We love to draft personas around a core motivation. What are the various jobs? And importantly, the jobs are inspired by doing that day in the life. Often day in the life, we sometimes do it for weekdays versus weekends. We know you can look to your own life and see that they're very different. And that can inspire many other jobs to get that kind of down on paper. So if you want to move to, if we've identified the jobs, now we've got this divergent long list of jobs, much like we were very divergent today with our orange juice company hiring, but how might we filter the jobs and sort the jobs? So this will kind of feel like a best of CPS convergent hit list here. If you want to move to the next slide, the ones that we, no coincidence, a lot of us are CPSI fans and students of many years, so that's why there is some connection. The first is, I want to go to the next slide of the filtering jobs, is segmenting and clustering. So grouping like jobs together, that was talked about a little bit before about health might be a macro job and there's some sub jobs underneath that. So just the good old segmenting and clustering into macro jobs is a way of sorting. I also would be, and I think I have a colleague that I work with on the call here too, Wayne Lashua, Seed and Burke are together a innovation and research company. Quantitative research can also be a great way to filter jobs, to actually size the prize, to size the number of people that actually do experience that job. How important is that to them? How satisfied are they with current solutions from high to low, and with this, and how many of them have that issue, to help you make the determination. So I did want to mention that's an important way to segment or to filter jobs out, which are the biggest ones you should look at. The next one, if you want to go to the next slide, Beth, is evaluation criteria, which I just kind of gave that away a little bit. This might be, we love a good quad map. Who doesn't? It simplifies things so easily, a good model. This could be something that you do based on qualitative or judgment, or as I said before, we work with clients when they want to quantify jobs in terms of the value from on a ranking scale. How valuable is that job to you from low to high? How satisfied are you with the current solutions from very satisfied to not satisfied? And as you can imagine, the upper right quadrant, it seems like that's always the good quadrant you want to be in. That is the white space area. It's where it's jobs that are very high value that people aren't satisfied. That's not to say that there's not some white space in the lower right quadrant where it's low value and not satisfied. It just probably means that you need to be mindful of the kind of almost how you price it or the value of it to people and make sure that you right size that opportunity, but that still is unmet needs on that lower right side as well. And then lastly, in terms of filtering jobs, is job statement build out. So in your handout that you'll get, you kind of all got to play with this a little bit. This is an example from some client work that we did where we just mapped it out. We added a little bit more dimension to it, which it just adds another layer for a job statement where you look at, who are we up against? Who are the quote unquote incumbents? Who are the people that people have hired that need to get fired for us to get hired? What are the satisfiers and dissatisfiers in a category? So this that adds just another layer to that job statement that you guys played with a little bit before. And then lastly, you've identified, you've filtered, and how does this connect to innovation? In our world, we use, on the next slide, innovation platforms. So for us, and I think there's a variety of ways you can think of an innovation platform. For us, there are 6 really important questions. Who are you talking to? What is the job and the tension? Who are we up against? Like, what are the other products being hired? What are some dig sites? And then what are some technologies that within a company or within our, or resources from a consulting or services standpoint that we may have access to? So we would convert jobs into innovation platforms. And this is where it kind of gets a little bit more open to, it could simply be a strategy, a how might we statement for then you to go off to ideation. Ideation of solutions to the jobs is what happens after this. And we're not covering that today, but if you want to go to the next slide, that's just another example of translation into what we call an innovation platform. And that's where it fits. And okay, I want to keep going. And then I want to pause here because in our 17 minutes left, we have that time for that bonus content, which is what does this all mean for me and my own particular theory of taking a little bit more of a personal development framework I know and love. And I had the aha about 2 weeks ago, how it really does connect with jobs theory. So we're going to end with that. But before we do, because it's a little bit of a slight tangent, I want to pause here and have some discussion for just a few minutes on ahas, insights. I came in thinking jobs was this, and now I think it's that, because we had some experts, we had some, I'm kind of vaguely familiar, and we had some like, I had no idea, but it's a cool title. So I'll kind of set my timer for a few minutes and would love to, again, it could be in the chat, but I love the good shout out energy.
Cherri, Laura had a question. She was wondering if you could repeat the 6 questions again.
In the innovation platform? Yes. And that will be in your handout too. Are you okay with that, Laura? It'll be in the handout on the link in a second.
She says thumbs up.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, I couldn't see that. Okay, great. Any other questions, comments from either our experts, our vaguelies, or I learned something new before we move to the next piece?
Cherri, I was doing some jobs to be done, and it was for a website, and I was having difficulty. Clients really didn't know what jobs to be done was, and they kept, instead of what were the people using the website hiring the website for, they kept wanting it to be, what does the website need to do? What job does the website need to do, instead of what are people who use the website hiring the website for. They had a very difficult time separating that in their mind. I kept going after the functions, what were the people hiring the website for, and the clients really could not stay on that task. They wanted the usability outcome instead of a jobs to be done outcome. Do you have any advice on how I can steer them back to the difference there?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Shell. And I think that is why we like Jobs Theory, because it forces you to go back to why are they not taking a product centric point of view, but a hiring manager's point of view. So I guess first it's important to really define in a pretty broad way your incumbents. Who are the incumbents that for whatever because if and not knowing what the website was or what the service offering was, but who are all the incumbents and why it could just be, and might be a familiar way, just say, let's think of our incumbents and why are they hiring the incumbents and how satisfied are they? And are they not, so that might be a baby step to, get them to, but I would ask if Corey or Jim or Wayne, so my colleagues, would have anything else to add. That was a great question, Shel, but you were nodding your head. Did that help? Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I tried to use the basic examples. I tried to, break down jobs to be done. I used the McDonald's example for them. I went through quite a number of examples, and, a week later they would keep coming back to, yes, but, what usability are they looking for? And I'm like, no, we're not after usability. We're after the jobs to be done so that we can innovate for usability. I could not get them to understand the difference. So it was just tough.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And again, that who's been hired already, the incumbents, and the, definition of the frame of, that's why whoever, I think Laura had asked about the 6 questions. That's why, and it'll be in the handout, but why the incumbents are, you've got, who are we talking to? What is their tension? And then who are we up against? Who are they currently hiring is really, could be a starting point for, as you just asked, Child, is to get clients to go, okay, at least I can wrap my head around that somebody. But having a wide and creative and expansive view of the competitive set is also a real value you could add to that we find that we do, to say, wow, I didn't think of, again, as sleep as a competitor, but people are hiring sleep for relaxation and peace or whatever, and that Reed Hastings felt he could do it better. So with that, my timer just went off. I think I'm going to move on to our final bonus content. Ready? What does this mean for me? So this was the aha that I had just recently, that jobs theory is really, again, the kind of the bigger idea. And for what it's worth, sometimes for some clients, it's like, oh, that just sounds, I've had clients not resonate as much with jobs theory at first, but really resonated with the idea of outcome-based innovation. That whole, like, they hire the holes, not the drill. And I like that term, outcome-based innovation, for kind of an oversight for it. But then I thought, what is outcome-based living? And the Beths will appreciate this because they work on the board with someone, and Liz, that talks all about desired outcomes all the time. So, so let's go to the next slide. This is the next slide, but okay. This is Corey's, I'm sure, laughing at me of the drum roll here. What's the secret to a great life? Okay, you ready? Next slide. What do you want? What do you want? Oh, no, don't go yet. Okay, it seems ridiculously simple. I do a ton of coaching and mentoring as it relates to, we all are innovators of our own life, aren't we? Don't we want to make it better? We talk about innovation as continuous improvement. We want to disrupt sometimes. We want completely different. There's a lot of metaphorical comparisons of innovations to how we live a life that we want to lead. I do a ton of coaching and mentoring, and I know a lot of you on this call right now, you're all leaders, creative leaders, so you do as well. I'm sure you can relate to this, that when you do coaching and mentoring, it's usually because someone's got an issue, and it will start with a lot of I don't wants. I don't want this in my job. I don't want that in my personal life. I don't want this in my weight loss plan. I don't want this. I don't want that. So the question is, what do you want? And so what we're going to end with is one more framework. And that for this framework, I would like to demo it with a volunteer, someone would be so brave and know that we have created CPSI as a environment is a safe space. And hopefully we've created a safe bubble here, that you'd be willing to let me kind of demo it with you. And all it requires is just thinking of something that you want in life. And I'd ask you to use one of the best of CPS tools, my favorite in terms of convergence, which is the 3 I's. Think of something you want that is important to you, that you have influence over, and that requires some imagination in kind of getting it. Would anybody like to volunteer? It'll be a demo of. Give you a minute to think of something first.
I can do that, Cherri, no problem.
Okay. Oh, thank you. How do you pronounce your name?
Aileen.
Aileen?
Yeah.
Did I say it correctly? Thank you.
Yes,
Aileen.
okay.
Okay, great. Okay, so if you want to go to the next slide, what we're going to do, and then you'll all have this handout, but we're going to kind of demonstrate it along the way with Aileen. What do you want in a just simple statement?
Well, what I really would like this year is that we're going to implement creative problem solving and design thinking in the medical curricula at our university.
Okay. Implement CPS and design thinking in your university. Okay.
Yeah, because we now get a new curriculum next year, so it's really the time now to do it.
Awesome. Okay, great. And I just want to point out, you did that perfectly. Often, even when you say, what do you want? Here's the difference. Sometimes people will say, like you might have said, I don't want the university to be so narrow-minded or not open, or weight loss. I want to lose weight versus I want to be fit. And it's got to be stated in a positive way. And you did that. So thank you, Elaine. That's perfect. Now, what will implementing CPS and design thinking at your university, what will it do for you? What do you think it will do for you, and how will it make you feel?
I really want to help people. So I'm a medical doctor at the ICU. I'm an intensivist, and I also do education. And I do that because I really want to help people learn things.
Okay, great. And so that's feeling connected of implementing CPS and design thinking will further your ability to help people. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Perfect. You did that great again. So how will you know you have it? So think about that you have implemented creative problem solving, design thinking at the university. Do you think, what might be some proof or criteria that you'll know you have it? Maybe go out in the future a little bit.
Ask my users, so the students.
So Aileen, when you ask them, what would be kind of language that they might say when they said, okay, it's happened here? What might they say?
I would ask them how they perceive the new curriculum and what they have perceived as new things and how they think about it.
Okay. What would you want them to say to be proof that you did it?
I think it would be nice if they saw a difference and if they think it's positive, but also when it's negative, it's no problem. Then we can use it to improve. So I don't care. Yeah.
Great. So you have it when they're starting to say, I've noticed a difference. I mean, again, positive or negative, things are happening here and they're different. Okay. And it's okay. Gotcha.
And what I really like, because we did it last 2 years, I've been working on this already. And what I really like is that the students get their own autonomy in the education. So they have more the steering wheel, like we are the ones that have the education and we want to help make it different and make it more fun and better for us.
Okay, great. I'm taking notes here, Aileen. That's great that they'll feel like they'll have the steering wheel of their own education. They're more empowered, right? That they can make a difference.
And my role is just to help them to get there.
So. Gotcha. Okay, awesome. Do you see any, in the next question, what of value might be at risk, or what could you lose? Sometimes it's like kind of unintended consequences. What might you have to let go of in order to make this change?
You always make choices during your career. So I make the choice to do things that I really like. So I don't have a lot of things to lose, I think, for me as a person. But for the students, it might fail, but I don't think failure is an issue, because when it doesn't work, just work on it. So failure is an opportunity to learn. So I'm not that kind of negative about things that I can lose.
I can tell. Okay. So you feel like you said it, nothing to lose.
Yeah, we have a class in our course that's about failure, to learn failure.
Yeah.
Because I think that's important to be able to do this kind of things.
Right. Is there anybody in terms of context, Aileen, that you need to have help you with this, or where or when or with whom would you gave us context of the within the University of CPS and design thinking. Any other context?
Yeah. So we have a university-broad platform that we work on creativity and design thinking and implementation at all the faculties. So that's where I also are part of. I'm a part of. We do also more national broad platform. So we try to implement it more broadly in the Netherlands.
Okay. Any other within that who and when in terms of resources that you'll need to make this happen?
Yeah. The most important point is money and time. So I think money is not that important but when I have to put time in it, that's money for my departmental chief. So that's kind of an issue. But he's really stimulating me to do this, and he really believes in it. So there's no problem at this moment. And next year I can do the master also. So he has approved for it. So I think we worked on it for some years to make an implementation step.
Yep. Okay, great. And this is the last and maybe the most important question, because it's about momentum and action. What are your next steps? And I'll ask you very specifically, what is something you can do in the next 24 hours to advance getting what you want, which you just stated is to implement CPS and design thinking in your university in the next 24 hours?
In the next 24 hours, I'm gonna do nothing on this subject, because for me it's important to have some rest from time to time.
Okay. Well, that's what you're gonna, it sounds like you're fully immersed in CPS if you're attending CPSI this week, and maybe you might
Now, you
rest.
know, I had a really busy 2 years
Yeah.
as an intensivist. So for me, this is great to get some new insights, to learn to contact new people and to learn from all you guys where you're standing from, because it's an inspiration for me. So
Yeah.
this is kind of 2-3 weeks that I absorb and as a present to myself, and then I rethink after some weeks, and then I get things all around and put it into my education.
perfect.
So that's what I do.
So Aline, we had a very insightful comment from Mary Ellen Vixta in the chat about your step of rest and sleep even is a wonderful time to incubate in the creative process. You know, Edison was famous for his insights in his napping and his resting. So thank you very much. Everybody give a round of applause to Aline as we close out. The bad thing about Aline, the good thing about Aline, and the bad thing, and you were so good. You can tell you were, you did not need redirecting a lot, but if you can, this will be in your handout, which I'll put in the chat before you drop off. Make sure the handout to the whole presentation will be there, but you know what you want. It's clear. You know what it'll do for you, which is that what does it make possible? It ladders up to an emotional, potentially a social job, back to that connection. You've got some proof. You had KPIs built in, to use business terms, but I love the humanity. This was pulled from I've studied neuro-linguistic programming. I think it's the most powerful. There are many tools, but it's called the outcome frame. It's these 6 questions you can ask yourself and get what you want to innovate an amazing life. So again, thank you for your vulnerability and courage. And I'm so excited for you and all the people that are going to benefit from your implementation of design thinking and CPS. But with that, I will, if there's anything else, I will put that, contact me with any further questions. I'd love to talk to you. And I am going to put this in the chat right now, the link to the handout. So I'll just give me 1 second to do that. And with that, thank you very much.
We'll also have Super Jamie put the handout in SCED.
Oh, in SCED. Okay. Thank you. Okay. You guys were awesome. I really, really enjoyed and looking forward to, I wasn't able to attend to last week, but I'm catching up this week with lots of good sessions, including some improv later today and this week. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Cherri. This has been fantastic. I've got notes.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, I wish my whole class were here. They would have loved it. But Cherri's right. We're still not done. Jane Fisher today at 4 p.m. Play forward. Improv, applied improv. Really learn all those yes and things. Also, I can guarantee it will be hysterical because like Jane, right? Like I feel like we should make a bingo chart. There will be 7 different voices. She will have different characters. There might be props.
And Beth, may I ask you a question? Is today's session at 4 about how you apply it to like workshops and things that we might all run? And then she does a like actual doing it later. Is that right?
So let me get today so that I can answer this correctly. The social activity tomorrow night is just like, we're going to be playing games. Everybody can participate. Nobody needs to know what they're doing. It's low risk, high fun. But today's session is variety of tools, exercises, and activities rooted in improv, creativity, play, and positive psychology that you can put in sessions, both virtual and live, activities, things to get your yes and mindset really juiced up and ready to go.
Nice juice connection, Beth. We've all been thinking about juice. Thank you again, everybody, and have a great CPSI week. Bye.
Thank you all so much. And Cherri, this was awesome.